Few ground rules, few reminders. Your mics have been muted on purpose. If you have any questions or comments or anything at any time during this program, please type them in the lower left-hand side of your Zoom screen in the chat. My chat facilitator, Bryn, will be forwarding all of those to me. She's wonderful and I appreciate her help a lot. So again, as another reminder, just any kind of inappropriate conduct will result in the removal from today's program. Just as a reminder, I'm sure we'll have none of that. And today we're going to continue creating a book. How do we do that? So we are still going to be using Adobe InDesign, as this is the industry standard publishing application for print and digital media. And just to review, it's more than just for book creation. You can use this for web design, you can use this for poster creation, digital magazines, interactive PDFs, and more. We have some of those examples up on our YouTube channel as well for review. And just to review last week's content, we went over the basics of digital publishing needs. We covered how to set up your workspace. We covered how to create those parent pages, which includes some of the examples below. We really focused on creating our chapter headers and our standard body text pages, but a few other options that you can create there are your title pages, that author biography, and copyright pages.
Caitlin, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
Totally
think
fine.
Your screen is not showing the presentation.
Oh, is it not? I'm sorry, guys. Let's try this again. Okay. So sorry. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay.
There we go.
You see it now? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. I'm on a dual monitor, so when it went into presentation mode, I must have forgot to specify the wrong one. So sorry about that. Let's just to go back. So you see everything. We're here on Adobe InDesign. We reviewed that, and we're just reviewing everything from last week. So this may look familiar. But again, we covered how to create styles, which included those consistent elements of paragraph, character, and object styles. The most heavily used ones are, of course, going to be paragraph and character. So what are we doing today? We are going to actually focus on importing our content, our completed book, into InDesign. We're going to apply those paragraph styles and character styles that we created last time. And we are also going to cover some basics of what is Grep styles and how to use the find change window effectively. And we're going to actually create a book file today. So this is how to add documents to the book file, how to sync your pages, etc. So before we jump into the demo and actually get into how to do all of that, what is Grep? Well, Grep is a global regular expression print, and it is essentially a formula, which is an expression made up of meta characters that can represent text, conditions, or patterns. And it is something that is used in InDesign in either the find change window or as a paragraph style to find or determine a specific formatting condition. So this is something you can use to add or remove formatting, use to edit, add, or delete text, or add a character style or rearrange text based on conditions. So an example for this would be if you were adding dates to your text and you wanted it in a specific format, you could use Grep to essentially code it to automatically format that information in that desired format. And there are tons of Grep guides that you can find online. There are LinkedIn Learning courses on Grep that you can explore. You do not have to know coding. You do not need to know all the ins and outs of this to use the basics. And InDesign actually does come with some pre-built in expressions that you can use to apply to your text just to make your life easier. So Please don't let it be intimidating. We're going to make this all fairly approachable. And if you have any questions when we get to that portion, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to go over it as many times to make it understandable. I know whenever I first learned it, I definitely had to take a few attempts at it to understand why it was useful or why I was learning this. So definitely something very, very useful. Want you to have it in your toolbox for your book formatting needs. Okay, and book files. What are they and why do you need them? Well, a book file is a collection of documents that can share consistent styles, swatches, and parent pages. So you will see whenever we create our book file and we add those documents into it, it makes adding in sequential numbers easier. It makes it easier to print selected documents or export them to PDF, or in this case, EPUB, a whole lot faster. And just because you have one document created for one book, it can actually belong to multiple book files. So if you're writing multiple books and you have a template for your copyright page, you can have that one document be applied to multiple books and just edit information for that book, or that template can be applied easily. So want to make sure that you understand that. The first document added to a book file is your consistent style source. So as we did last week, if we create a document that is purely all of our parent pages, all of our paragraph styles, character styles, you can actually apply that to any book file as your style source. So you're not having to redo the same work every single time that you go to format your book. The style source applies all of that consistently when you synchronize your book file. And today I'm hopeful that we'll get to that portion and show you how fun that it can be. So we've covered that information, and now it's time to hop back into the InDesign software. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can get into the InDesign software. So give me just 1 second to have that pulled up. Not working great for me for some reason. Okay. All right, try and get that again. Here we go. Can you see my screen? Do you see InDesign?
Yes.
Perfect. Whew. Excellent. Hard part done. Okay, so as you can see, we are back to this standard InDesign screen here. So what are we doing? We're going to open up our file. So I went ahead and created a chapter 1 based on everything that we did last week. So you can see right here, I've got content in here. So this is what we want it to look like in the end. I wanted to make sure that I showed you at the start what we're trying to do, how we're trying to make this look all great, and how do we get from A to B. So in InDesign, this works pretty easily, but before we jump into that, do we have any questions in the chat? Is there anything I can answer before we get into this step by step?
There do not appear to be any questions at this time.
Cool deal. All right. So here we go. So if we were to import everything here, so as you can see, we have our chapter header right here. And I have over here on the right, just as a reminder, this is again our panels. Over here on the left, our tools that we use. I have the black arrow selected so I can select content. And right now it's defaulted, it's kind of got everything open. But if I open that file right there, you can see my chapter heading styles I have there. if I want to organize it a bit better, I may go ahead and make another folder. I think I just added a style. Didn't need to do that. So I'm going to throw that away in that little trash can there. Over on the right hand side, I'm going to click that file, and I'm actually going to, just because I'm a big believer in organization, we're going to go ahead and name that chapter text. And if you want to do this yourself, it's super easy. You can just select, click Shift and click to select multiple, and you can then drag that into a folder. And when you have multiple headings like this, it can just make it easier to organize at the end of the day. So again, how do we get all of this? So ideally, when you're getting into InDesign, you have everything already written. So this can be done in Google Docs, it can be in Microsoft Word, whatever text editor that you are comfortable with and use for writing your book. That is what I recommend. I would not recommend typing up your entire book in InDesign, just because you will be beating your head against a wall. InDesign is first and foremost a formatting layout tool. It does have text editing capabilities, but it will just take you so much longer to do that versus writing it in a application that is built for that. So loads of options out there, free and paid. Microsoft Word is, of course, commonly used, but there's also things like OpenOffice, there's Google Docs, which is open source and free. You could even do it in Notepad if you really had to. So we're going to actually, for the sake of showing you how to do this, I'm going to go up here to my layers tool, and so you can see here, the only layer I have here is actually that text box. I'm going to hide it and I'm going to lock it. So we're going to import the text here, just like it is. And how do we do that? So we already have this applied. Let's go ahead and see here. It didn't hide everything on the subsequent pages, because when you hide things on a layer, it's only for that page. So if we want to hide here, you can see it's a separate layer because layers only apply to the pages you have selected. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go ahead and hide, click that lock tool, go down here, hide, lock. Just because if at first we don't succeed, I want to make sure I have a good example to show you still. Also, if you want to hide, try different styles. If you want to adjust your paragraph style, this is a great way to view different formatting techniques to see which one you prefer ultimately for your book. So what are we doing? So to place content into InDesign, to pull that text from other applications, what you're going to do, there's a couple different ways. So you can go up here to File and down here to Place, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is Control D with my keyboard, which opens up a file manager window, essentially. So can everyone see the Place window that has popped up, or are you just seeing InDesign?
We are seeing the Place window.
Perfect. So something I will also cover here is you can see that I have a few files here. I'm going to actually go into Pride and Prejudice class example, because for today's class, I have pulled a complete book off of Project Gutenberg, which is a open source online book depository that you can access. So it's all material that has been written and their copyright has expired. Copyright typically lasts for 100 years. And copyright is also something that applies automatically to any work or creation that you make. It's applied. You can get that officially documented and recognized, but it's not something that you have to go extreme amounts of like, how do I get this applied? It's applied automatically. So just another good factoid for you to have about publication in general is no one can claim your work because copyright is applied automatically. But getting into placing our document, how I organize my files, and you do not have to do this, but this is how I prefer to work. And I find that organization really helps me is I like to make sure that everything is named appropriately. So right here, title, table of contents, publishing info page, the end of project. So if you have anything that's special use or requires specific information, it's just good to label that. Okay. But I have here my book file, my chapters InDesign files, my chapters Word text. I even already have the EPUB folder labeled. And this just helps me again stay organized. So you may have chosen to complete your book in one single document. You could have broken it up like I have here into chapters. This is really going to just depend on what your style of writing is as an author. But in terms of importing your text into InDesign, why I have this separated by chapters and why I would recommend creating your InDesign files by chapter is because the speed and processing power of InDesign is going to be completely dependent on your graphics processor of the device you're using it on. So if you're using a computer, it should have a fairly standard graphics card on it. But if you have a huge file in InDesign, it's going to take longer to load. And most importantly, it will take a very long time to export or sync. So working on something bite size is easier on one hand, just from a technology standpoint, but it's also easy in case you're just updating text. If you read through and you want to change something, you're not having to worry about updating the entire book. If you want to delete or take something out, because again, you're doing this yourself. So you don't have to stick to a standard process here. This is just what organization is going to work best for you. So if you decide later you have to rewrite a chapter, it's very easy for you to go back and just re-upload that specific chapter versus having to go scroll down through your InDesign file and specifically find it in that page. So organization is important. But again, we're placing our first chapter here. So what are we doing? So we're just going to go ahead and select chapter 1 and click open. Now, something important here, these check boxes underneath, it currently has replace selected item, create static captions. I am going to make sure that this show import options is selected. So now I'm going to click open and you can see it pops up with this window. So if you had any specific styles or formatting already applied, you could choose to preserve it, or you could choose to remove it because you're going to apply new things here in InDesign. And if you had any of this already created, it's just nice to see. And you can create a preset for what this looks like if you have a preference for all of your documents that you've created. So right now, I'm just going to remove styles and formatting because I still have a lot to show you guys. So I'm going to click OK. And as you can see now on my cursor, I have this text. So this is very important because I didn't know about it for a long time. And it's, again, one of those things that just makes your life easier. So if you were to just click, not pushing anything, all it did is apply this to the first page. And if that happens, that's okay. That is perfectly fine. It's not the end of the world. But you'll notice now we have here that red plus sign, and that means you have overset text. So you would have to click that and it would create linked containers. So each of these text boxes that we are created, InDesign refers to them as containers. And you would have to do that and link it for each page. That's not what we really want to do here. So I'm going to Control Z to undo, because there is a much easier way to just place everything all at once. So if you actually push Shift whenever you have your content loaded to your cursor and you're placing it in your document, it's going to do that automatically. And it will even add pages if you don't have enough pages. So this is just, it's really amazing how many people don't know that that one simple thing makes this a lot easier. But as you can see as well, what I've placed is actually formatted very strangely. And this is because I did download it from Project Gutenberg. So I did not do all the formatting here. Now in subsequent chapters, I've actually already cleaned all of this up. But just to show you, we're going to get into how to use Grep, how to use the find and change tool to make the formatting of this a lot easier than me having to go through and delete all of this individually and backspace again to get this lined up correctly, because that would take forever and that would be really painful. And you guys have a lot of, your time is valuable. You have a lot more things to do in your publishing goals. So Control Z, we're going to undo that because again, I'm just going to give you some tools that make this a lot easier. We don't need that chapter 1 at the top. I've also actually gone through and deleted any kind of heading I had in documents to make placing it easier. But before I show you that, are there any questions about placing your text into your document?
Not about placing. I did have one question that I answered in the Q&A that I wanted to share the answer to,
Sure.
which is InDesign is a subscription-based software. However, Plano Public Library does offer free access with your library card. We have computers in each of our locations that have access to InDesign and Photoshop and many of the other software that is within the Adobe suite. So you can access at the Plano Library.
Absolutely. And you can also book dedicated time in one of our digital creation spaces up to 2 weeks in advance for 2 hours at a time. If you want a more quiet, uninterrupted setting to work on your book, if you still need more assistance, you can also book a librarian session at Haggard or Parr, where those are located, for a one-on-one assistance with a project or an element that you're working on. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you for your answer, Warren. So now we're going to jump into, all right, how do we first and foremost access, find, and change? How do we make formatting this a lot easier? Because I can tell you right now, just highlighting this, if we go over here to paragraph and we try and apply that first chapter paragraph, oh, that's not right for one. Something happened to our formatting there. So don't know what happened there, but doesn't look right, does it? Not what we want, so we're going to Control Z. And also didn't quite take care of all of our other issues. Again, Control Z. Let's see if we applied that body chapter text here. Looks like that's all there, but again, it didn't override the formatting issues from Word. So if we go up here to type, we have find and replace font. So that's just for font. So you can easily go through and update that way. And okay, it's actually under edit up there in the menu, find change, or if you do Control F, it's the find change window. So you can see here that we have a text find change and we have grep. So, and we also have options for glyph, object, color. So this is a new feature. only introduced in the most up-to-date version, I believe. And it's again nice for that swatches that I mentioned. If you did have some sort of color preference assigned to material, you could easily update that this way. But we're going to go back here to text. So text, it's just going to work like if you've used this feature in any Word or text editor. If you were to highlight those spaces there, so copy and paste and replace it to none, we're going to quickly click change all. And you can see search is completed, 87 replacements were made. Okay, excellent. So that's already an improvement. But now we still have all this space over here, and those are hard returns. And just again to make this more clear, if you go to type and at the very bottom of that menu, select show hidden characters, you can actually see all the paragraph editing or paragraph placements. I kind of markup, that's the word I'm looking for, the markup of everything. So that paragraph mark right there, that's a hard return. So I showed you some basics for text editing. We're going to go over here to grep. And so what are we looking for? Well, right here, it'll have a history with that drop down, or if you click this @ symbol, this is special characters for search. So you can actually have it look for a forced line break or end of paragraph, etc. There's a lot of different options here. So you can do forced line break and change to blank, for instance. So if we do find next, it's saying I can't find that. So let's try something else. Let's let's do variable, and I still don't see what I'm looking for. But I do know what I'm actually looking for. So that's also not what we're looking for. It's actually \R is a hard return. So you can see that that's now highlighted. So if I were to go backward, find previous, you can see it's now there. And if we click change, it's fixed that. So I actually don't want it to be changed to nothing. I want to add in a space. And so let's go ahead and we're going to go forward and find next. And we actually want that end of paragraph break. We're going to change that. Find next. And you can see sometimes it's adding 2 spaces. Well, and it's not necessarily catching everything. Let's try that again. Let's move that. Find next. There it is. Change. Find next. Change. And why am I not selecting change all? Well, if I were to select change all, 116 replacements were made, but now it looks like this. And there are some line breaks that I want. So Control Z. And we're just going to go through. Believe me, this is why doing your formatting correctly in your Word document is super important, but it's also nice that you can actually select, and it should, well, okay, it's still applied to the entire document. Control Z, I forgot to do selection, search, selection, and change all. So you can do that, highlight, change all, makes it a little faster than having to go individually. And you can see some other things that need to be changed, like there's underscore instead of spaces. So again, you can't always plan for the edits that you're going to have to make, depending on what application you're using. But InDesign has definitely tried to make this faster and easier to format, edit, and take care of. But would I want to do this for all 61 chapters? Definitely not. This is what I call a rinse and repeat scenario, where you're just doing a lot of the same actions over and over again. Now, if you weren't comfortable trying to do this in Grep, a way you could do this in text would be, it works in Microsoft Word. I don't know if it's the same in InDesign, but if you were to do this upward arrow with the lowercase p, again, add in a space, find next. Okay, it does. So it's the same thing doing the text, and this is looking for the end paragraph, that hard return. Find next, change. So you can see that works as well. There's usually multiple ways to do the same thing. Whoops. Again, multiple ways to do the same thing. And InDesign to within the document. Now, that was only offering me the document, which means I'm going to go back to Grep so that I can do the selection, because that was definitely faster. But you understand what I'm doing here. Now, the other thing that we would want to do is apply our styles to this. So first chapter, okay, that's a little bit better, but I don't know why the font has changed. So easy way to fix that. Double click our paragraph style and take a look and figure out what's going on. So it's based on our body chapter text. So what's going on with our font? It says Minion Pro. Advanced character fonts. Okay, it's definitely scaling that up. And we're going to go down here again to drop caps. So it says 6. We're going to go ahead and preview this and see what's going on, because that's actually not the correct style. Let's see here. Let's go back here. First chapter paragraph, general, body chapter set, text. Very, very strange. Okay. This is, okay, perhaps it's pulling from the chapter header. But we don't need that. Okay. All right. So we want to leave that as none. That's still not quite correct. So we're going to go ahead and change that. That's still the wrong. Wrong font. It says Minion there. Sometimes this happens. So whenever something is wonky, go in and check it out. Just because you think something should have saved correctly does not mean it will. And that's okay. We all make mistakes, or they're not mistakes, they're just learning opportunities. I've worked in InDesign for years, but they're always updating things. They're always trying to make things better. And so that sometimes means that what I thought I knew how to do has updated and changed, and I no longer know how to do it. But In this scenario, some wires have just gotten crossed. So we're actually going to go to our character style. Okay, so see, this is what's happened. Our chapter header has been applied to this. So we're going to click none. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is actually create a new character style so that we can override this much easier when this happens. We're going to call this our body text. And we're going to go ahead and switch everything to Palatino because it's a good consistent font. Now again, you don't have to choose whatever font I choose. I would just make sure that, again, the font that you're selecting for your book, one, it's a good match for your content. Two, that whatever publishing avenue you're going through, that the font is supported on that. So Amazon Kindle, for instance, has, I believe, 6 or 8 different fonts that they allow their user to adjust font to. So we're going to click OK. And that is different from what I have here, but that's okay. Because I'm going to go ahead and select all or make sure that that's not selected. And now we're going to go back to our paragraph styles and we're going to apply that first chapter. And you can see I still had everything selected, so not a good fit. Control Z, unselect, and we're going to apply that first chapter. Okay, that's much better, much better. So some fun troubleshooting there that we had. Again, so always good to figure out when something's not working, what could be the cause. We figured it out. So that's just some basics of using grep, of applying our paragraph and our character styles here. But as you can see, we've got a lot more to do, which is why I already saved that completed example. So comparing and contrasting. So if we were to hide that and show this, you can see, okay, we're matching up and things are lining up fairly well. Now again, just because I have all of that markup, those characters currently on, you can hide that at any time. I find it immensely useful whenever I'm having to do major formatting changes, such as that, just because it'll show hidden spaces. So I'm going to turn that on again, just I'm going to hide my good example and show this one again and turn that back on. Just because, let's see here, if I zoom in a little bit more, I'm control plussing to really zoom in. These individual dots in between, those are spaces. Okay, so you can see right there, 2 spaces, which is not necessarily what we want to see. So this is something I would, again, just do in text. There's no reason to really grep this. You can if you really want to. You can go through and actually code that in, but it's going to be just as fast and easy to do that in text. So if you just add in 2 spaces and make sure that you have that set to 1 space and change all. Okay, it found 35 of those there. Ideally, in your text editor, again, that's not going to be an issue, but if for whatever reason you had extra spaces and didn't realize it, this is a very easy way to apply those formatting changes. Make sure it's just universally fixed and consistent. Okay, so done. And we're going to go ahead and hide and go back to our original examples here. I'm going to zoom back out. We're going to scroll down and selecting this page, hide, show, down here, hide and show. So this is again the completed formatted option here. This is my first chapter. Now, this looks exactly like I want it to, and with my character and paragraph styles fixed, this is also what I'm going to use as my style document for here. Just for today's sake, we're going to go to new here under file to create our book file. So again, when it creates new book, it's going to ask you to select where you want to save this. So for today, I already have that file selected. Let me get to that correct folder. So book file here, excellent. And you can see I already had one saved. So we're gonna go ahead and save. We're gonna replace what I had mocked up, and this opens a new panel. So this panel is your book file, and it's by default not going to have anything in it, but we can fix that real quick. So there's a number of controls here. So just like anything over here on the right in our panel menu, you could drag and add this. You can also drag it out, you can open it, and you have all the options you would have. So this is quite the menu here. And there's some options down here. So first we need to add something to our book file. So we're going to add documents. I currently only have chapter 1 and chapter 2. So we have chapter 1 taken care of. So that is now added, and it has this right here on the left-hand side to indicate that this is our style source. So this is something you can add to at any time during any part of your book creation process. But I like to, whenever I've got something pretty well set, I like to go ahead and make sure it's added to that file. I've got that chapter 2 created too. So, oh, whoops. If you try and add the same document again, it's going to say, nope, you've already got this added. So InDesign does try and help you manage everything going on. So it's like that chapter 2 that I have created, and you can see it's right there now, but I don't have it open in the InDesign window. So again, it's just for organization, and it has it all in one place so that you can sync files without having to have them all open at the same time as well. So you can open your files from here. So by double clicking chapter 2, it takes me to this file here, and guess what? There's nothing in it because we're going to rinse and repeat. We're going to update our next chapter and then just apply. We're going to do some syncing. So just to show you what that looks like, we're going to again Control D. We're going to select chapter 2, open. See those presets there? Okay. Shift and click to auto-populate everything. Oh, but what's happened? We have that same chapter style on this blank page. So you go up here to pages, and we see that we have our 8 chapter, 8 body all already saved here. So we're just going to drag this one onto this second page because we don't need that first page of the chapter defaulting to everything. So if you find that when you file place, your chapter, your first page chapter is on every page, this is all you need to do to fix that. Select that parent, drag and drop. But the nice thing is this is already formatted because I made sure that my Word document was set. The only thing that didn't happen is I forgot to take out that chapter 2 notation there. So I'm going to go ahead and select this first chapter, go to my paragraph styles, select that first chapter paragraph. Oh, that didn't quite work, but you know what? That's okay. That's fine because I'm going to show you guys what happens next. These two arrows going back and forth, we're going to go ahead and synchronize our styles. And okay. Still doesn't look quite right. What's going on? Okay. So, what do? Let's see here. Let's make sure that we saved this. Save. And actually, we're going to synchronize options. This is important. If something's not syncing correctly, go to your synchronized options, and you can actually see what's selected and what is not. And our parent pages were not. So we're going to click OK. And now we are going to also synchronize everything once more. It's still not synchronizing correctly, which is strange. Because what we did last time, so going back to chapter 1, going back to our parent page here, this is a text variable that we selected. So this should be automatically updating in our second document. So we're just going to make sure that for whatever reason, this should be updating. And if it's not, when in doubt, redo. So let's see here. Okay, now this should be okay. This should be applying correctly. And if it's not, again, that's okay. We're going to figure out what's going on. Okay. We're going to save that. I'm going to go back here and we're going to see if it doesn't seem like it is working for whatever reason, which is kind of a pain. But you know what? That there's something broken. Okay. So it looks like our options are correct. It should continue from the previous document and it should automatically update. So for some reason it's not. Okay. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, this is a common error and it's not necessarily anything that you did or did not do. This is just a fun thing that happens in InDesign where when you're creating a new document for the first time, not all the features are set up the way you want it to be selected. And guess what? That is completely and utterly okay. This, because once you do it once, and once you save it, once you go through and you make sure that all of your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, you shouldn't have to do it again. So if we are creating another InDesign file for our third chapter, for instance. And even though we don't have anything else in this, we're going to go ahead and save as our chapter 3. I just want to show you what it looks like to add in another document and hopefully have everything applied correctly. You can do numerical, you can type it out, whatever works best for you. We're going to go ahead and add that chapter 3 to this book file. Even though, again, there's nothing here, we're going to go ahead and synchronize these. We don't have anything on here, but now without me having to load in anything, our parent pages are there. If we go down to our paragraph styles, they're all there. So book files are great, especially when you're working with a lot of files and you're having to rinse and repeat and add things in for consistency. This is just a great organizational and management tool to help you keep things organized, whether or not you're there yet. Do you have to add everything in all at once? No, absolutely not. But if you're just wanting to work ahead and make sure you have things labeled correctly, you can easily tell where you are in the process in the book file by seeing, oh, 1 through 3, 4 through 5. Oh, there's only one page here and there's nothing added. I haven't gotten to that one yet. So again, just it helps keep you on track. So if we're going up here and just easily applying things, drag and drop, that's applied. And then we go to Control D and place in that third chapter. See everything, shift and click. Okay, look at that. Add that chapter, parent page to those other pages. That fixes up that right there. And let's go ahead and sync. Okay. Now, why are we running into the issue where it's not updating that chapter number again? See, this is what I was wanting to make sure we had fixed. So it doesn't look like everything is fixed. That's okay. So synchronize options. Looks like that's all correct. Synchronize again. Let's go back to that book page numbering, continuing. Document numbering. Okay. For some reason, it's defaulting to start page numbering at 1, and that could just because we didn't have this pre-created and add it in. So seems like this is the feature to always double check your document numbering options and make sure that this, for the start section, it's defaulted to automatic page numbering. And for your document chapter numbering, select same as previous document in the book. We're going to click OK and OK, and we're going to update this. It still didn't change. Okay. But
could it possibly be because the chapter title is still based on the parent pages?
So the sub chapter is actually something that you will manually have to update just because it's text. It's a text variable. So unless you were treating this like a running header, you could automate that. But these two separate windows are actually not linked. That's a good suggestion though, just to check, but we did update that already. Style, yeah, that's there. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay. In all of my practice, this was never an issue. But of course, whenever it comes time to show y'all, things happen, which it's a great learning moment. It's a great way to just double and triple check everything. Okay, automatic, same as previous. Okay. Let's go here and let's update all numbers. Oh, you know what? Okay. I realized it was in the parent page and not in the document view, but that really shouldn't matter. Okay. Hmm. Okay, and that's changed again. Okay. Well, sorry for the lack of talking. Let's see here. Yeah, this really shouldn't be how it works. Sorry about that, y'all. Because of the text variable, it really should automatically update. So everything we did previously, this should have already been automated. And selecting same as previous document in the book should make this work defaulting. So we're gonna go ahead and go through and just try a few different things to figure out what's going on. Okay. Sometimes trying different things can work. Or just starting over with your paragraph style, or just again digging in deep in the software to figure out what wire got crossed. But our page numbering is working great, and that's a plus. And applying styles, so it also seems like the first paragraph style is not applied by default. So book pages are really great for applying everything consistently. Now, is it perfect? As you can see, no. There's still a lot of room for user error. We are at the 1 hour mark, and I want to make sure that if you had any other questions, that you have a chance to ask them. Next week, the plan is to dive into actually designing your cover and creating your table of contents. Now, I'll give you a few minutes to think of any questions. I'm going to still continue and try and fix my document numbering issue and synchronization issues. But again, please feel free to type them there in the chat. If you are unable to stick around with us. If that's okay. Thank you again for joining us for today's part 2 creative book portion. We hope this helps you understand how to place your text into your document and understand how this theoretically should automate all of your chapter headers. Okay. Okay. Well, seems like I've got a bigger mystery on my hand in terms of why my chapter headers are not syncing correctly. But for part 3, that will be resolved, and I will try and share what went wrong at the start of next class. So thank you again for joining us today. There is a survey that should pop up in your browser. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. Yeah, that was really frustrating. Sorry, Brent.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I
The
don't know
design
what
is very weird.
it is, but literally in the 3 practice ones I didn't have any issue with that at all. And so I'm just frustrated that, of course, whenever I'm live, something breaks.
Of course.
And I have no idea, like literally going through this, I have no idea why.
Well, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Uh,
I have to bounce to another meeting, so
yes, no,
great
run
work.
away.
Yep.
Thanks for humoring me. I did my best.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you. Thanks for hanging with me, and appreciate it. Have a great rest